Hello, folks. When you hear that ooh, you know where you are. My name is Stefan Tiringer. I'm your host here at As It Says on the Screen. And if you're listening in and you've picked this podcast, Rants, welcome to new friends and welcome back to all the old friends. Today we have a show where we have somebody with us from New Orleans. That's a city who's been through quite the journey, just like entrepreneurs, if you are an entrepreneur, the highs and the lows and rebuilding again. An amazing, amazing city if you've ever been there. If you haven't, put it on your bucket list. I'm not going to give you everything yet who we're talking to, but the individual is on a Bravo TV show. And it's been there for about 3 years. But during the daytime, I'm going to give you a little bit more now. He's a sports agent and a lawyer. My favorite thing was that he works for the King firm. He looks absolutely killer also in a white dinner jacket. He spent time in Atlanta and Philly and now is back in New Orleans, has spent a lot of time in rebuilding and helping to reinvest and rebuild the city of New Orleans, particularly after Katrina. And I am so honored and super honored and grateful that he's with us right here. And his name is Justin Reese. Justin, welcome to Raw Rants. It's awesome to have you. Thank you for connecting with us. Thank you for allowing us to have you here this morning.
Stefan, man, I really appreciate this, man. I'm looking forward to this, man. That was an awesome introduction, man.
And we try.
I tell you, it's, being back, you were saying rebuilding Katrina at the time. I was in law school, but I was working, clerking at law firms, processing people's claims. And that was kind of still my way of giving back. You kind of brought me back there for a second, man. So I appreciate that. And look, I'm excited to be here.
Thank you once again. So let's talk about this for a second, Justin. I know in reading about you, hearing about you, you have great and deep roots in New Orleans. You're not just people very casually say, well, somebody's a socialite. Well, that's great to be a socialite, but you're also putting time in. You're working in New Orleans. You are at a law firm there. And you said before the pod, you said to me, you know what, while I enjoy being on Southern Charm, at the same time, that's what I do. My day job, and I don't like the word job, but my profession is being a lawyer. Yeah. I want to help people, and I think even there you're picking some very particular cases, as I've read about. But let's talk about New Orleans rebuilding, the investment of time, resources, personality, charm, connections you've put into New Orleans. Let's talk about that for a moment.
No, absolutely. Like you said, it all started back with Katrina. I was in law school at the time. And the crazy part about Katrina is I was supposed to start class on Monday. And the storm happened. And I'm, displaced in Baton Rouge with my family. I am in a hotel trying to figure out what's my next move. And I wound up going to, after probably about 6 weeks in a hotel, a one-bedroom hotel with my parents, my godmother, my brother. My school set up a satellite campus for us at University of Houston, and wound up moving to Houston for my first semester of law school, went out there, and then I came back. And while coming back, obviously you're looking for clerkships and internships, and there was a firm that I got hired on at where they were doing a lot of the hurricane recovery claims for people whose homes were damaged throughout the storm. So even though I wasn't like physically, doing a lot of the rebuilding, the construction work, but I felt like what we were doing was still very important because we had to fight with a lot of these insurance companies.
Right.
They were giving people the blues. They were trying to, underpay people on their policies. And, we really fought to try to get the money that people deserve to fix their homes so they could get back in the city as soon as possible. So, that was, like I said, it wasn't the physical work, but it was still very important work. And we had to do it at a fast pace,
I love that. Talk to me a little bit about, I'm sure you see, and I was in New Orleans probably just about a couple of years ago the last time. And so much has changed, but if you go more in the suburbs, you can start seeing that there's still leftovers and some structures are still just hanging there, even a decade later.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's tough. And I think also the story of rebuilding takes a huge human toll.
No,
What are
it's
some of the things
acceptable.
that you've seen and kind of the great comeback stories, but maybe also some of the stories that people, and listen, our listeners, they want to hear about this. Maybe some of the things which they're not so pretty. What are the things, that you've heard about it, know about, and maybe if somebody's listening on the podcast, what can they do? How can they maybe still today? How can they help?
I can tell you actually, even though Katrina now was, oof, I mean, this was 16 years ago now at this
Yep,
point.
that's right.
We still have some homes that have not been rebuilt since Katrina. Now,
Yeah,
it's not the overwhelming number that it was right after the storm, but I could give you an example on my block, and I live in a nice neighborhood. It's not like loaded with mansions, but it is a nice neighborhood, and there's
yeah,
still like one or two houses on my block that have not been fixed up yet. Now, not saying that it couldn't be. There's other reasons, and I've even reached out to the people to try to purchase them so I can remodel them and try to sell them and help revitalize the block. Because that's actually something else that I'm doing now. I'm doing real estate as
I
well,
love it. I love it.
and so I'm always putting on a different hat, man. I'm trying on different hats all the time. But that's something that, and obviously it has a little bit of a personal touch to me because it's my neighborhood.
Yeah,
So I'm very interested in doing it. And for me in that situation, I mean, sure, it'd be nice to make a few dollars, but it's actually more about trying to revitalize the neighborhood that I live in too. So you still see stuff like that.
yeah, I love that.
Um, I can tell you as far as other things that are happening with around the city. We're constantly just rebuilding, we're restructuring, we're regrowing, and I'm seeing like this huge growth now in the city. Things are a lot more businesses are coming into the city, a lot more people are moving to the city, even
Nice.
after just getting over Hurricane Ida, which was like now the worst hurricane since Hurricane
Yeah,
Katrina. And we're navigating through that now, and so that one was crazy. I was evacuated for 2 weeks during that
yeah.
storm. You know, so we're constantly rebuilding, and some people look at it as a negative. It's very aggravating. It's very annoying to having to do that, but sometimes it could be considered as a good cleansing, a way to kind of get in, rebuild, and restore.
One of the things I always think about is I spent quite a bit of time in India during my corporate career,
Hmm.
and one of the words which people talk about is this word of leapfrogging, right? And
Hmm.
I think that's what an opportunity maybe, and I'm curious about it, more asking as a question. I would imagine some things that happen in New Orleans and now Ida again and all the rebuilding once again, you start looking at what works and doesn't work, maybe a little more critical, and you don't just do it for the sake of rebuilding. You start rebuilding it and recreating it and implementing it with more thought and maybe a bigger amount of creativity and innovation. Is that a similar thing that you see in the rebuilding after Ida again as well?
I would like to think that. I mean, obviously the jury's still out. If that is if those advantages are going to be
Yeah,
taken, you would like to see that if you have the opportunity to rebuild, that you do it bigger and better than it once was.
100%.
Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes I got to be honest, it's not.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but I do see a shift. I do see a change in the dynamics around the city, and I like to think that it's for the better. Also, from a infrastructure standpoint,
Yep.
there's been a shift around political leaders around the city.
Mm.
Folks are younger.
Yep.
I'm starting to see a younger crowd that are now getting voted into different positions, whether it's city council, state reps, state senators. So we have like this new energized, kind of insight and,
Yep.
and
Yep.
attitude. And,
Yep.
I like to think that it's a different perspective, hopefully something that's going to evolve with the times as well. So that's exciting to see. Now, obviously, there's still work to be done, a lot of work to be done, but seeing like these new pieces being put in place with infrastructure and government is I'm liking where things are going.
There's hope. Hope is
Yeah.
always a big thing. That's awesome. So we got to talk about the obvious thing, brother, here, which is, Southern charm. You shared with me you've done this for 3 years, and everybody
Yeah.
wants to hear, all the juicy stories, which are kind of like when you take that last aisle in the supermarket, and there's like all the faces on the magazines.
Yeah.
Well, there's Justin. So let's talk about, how did you get cast? How did you get invited to be on Southern Charm? Because I'm sure a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to do that." So let's
Sure.
talk about that piece maybe a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit more about all the stuff you want to share about it.
Well, let me start backwards and move forward. You say a lot of people say that they want to do it. A lot of people think that they want to do it. I'm gonna tell you, doing it is very difficult. It's very difficult. I mean, you literally have to open yourself up to the world. Your
Yeah.
your insecurities, your joyous times, your true thoughts on things, and that is not an easy task. Like they want you to speak your mind. They basically want you to not have a filter and
Mm.
just say how you feel and be authentic and be true. And to do that in front of a camera is very hard. So a lot of people say they think they want to do it, but it's not just you just being in front of a camera and
I
doing it.
I love this that you just said this. I'm a guy. I've had my own journey, and I think as guys, we all had this journey. Particularly if we had strong fathers or anybody in our life that had a strong personality, even mothers. Um, my question to you is, I mean, I've dealt a big part of my life with the not good enough, right? Not
Mhm.
enough here, not enough there, and you just said insecurities. Let's talk about this for a second. I
Sure.
mean, you look like a guy who's got his shit completely together. You're doing all these different things. You're in the city. You're in social events. You're on TV. You're doing well professionally. You're in real estate investing. You're doing a little sport agent thing on the side as well, and you've reinvented yourself 3 or 4 times just over the last 5 years. I would imagine that's
Mhm.
probably accurate. And you've held all these assets as well. So how does somebody with insecurities, with all these things, you suddenly got to put it out there? How do you deal with it?
It's really a matter of you and just being vulnerable and being okay being vulnerable.
Mm,
And look, that is not easy because, like I said, a lot of the things that your faults or your shortcomings are going to be put out there for the world to see, and it's up to you to look at how you want to handle it. Because the way I saw it is that there's a lot of people who have the same problems that I had or the same issues that I had. And a lot of people can relate to it. So you can then be a tool, a teacher for someone else out there to help them learn, to help them get through whatever it is that they're going through, whether directly or indirectly. Or you can let it just eat you up and then be like, man, they really got this bad side of me on TV. This is horrible. I look like an ass. This is embarrassing. Or you
yep.
can just try to do your best to embrace it and use it as a teachable moment. It is
I
hard
love this.
to do that second part. It is
That is
hard,
so
man.
good. Listen, I get it. Listen, I love what you just said. You can be a teacher, you can be a tool. So for people listening, like some of the things, as much as you're willing and comfortable sharing, I mean, the whole world knows your story anyway already. So you're
Mhm.
going to share. You're going to share it all here. So teacher, tool, and inspiration for people listening. Some of the things that you've, maybe uncovered on the show, not intentionally on the show, but it just kind of came up for you. Are there things you can share that can be a teaching lesson, a tool, an inspiration for people listening?
One of the biggest things, and I think even kind of being filmed, a lot of the things that happen, these were the real things that happen with us, for everybody's storyline, relationship wise, job wise.
Yep.
It's very cathartic because being in front of the camera and being a part of it, it forced you to talk about it. And so
Mm.
that in itself was kind of a little bit of like therapy, even though you're putting it out there for everybody to see. But a lot of it was it's like, okay, the only way to get out of a storm is to go through it. And
Yep.
it forces you to talk about it. It forces you to have conversations about it. And if you can do it in front of a camera, then you can definitely do it in your personal life.
I love that. I think that's such great advice, talking through it. Now, have you developed over the course of the show I mean, let's talk about friendship. Let's talk about support systems. Let's talk about people who want to listen to you. How has that played a role in it?
Friendship wise, I mean, I think what it's done is actually done a couple of things. It's made some of my friendships stronger. It also showed me that relationships have changed as well. Being on the show, one of the things that I really tried to do was be my true authentic self and be consistent with that all the way. So literally, what you saw On TV, I'm literally the same exact person
I
off
love it.
TV,
I
you
love it.
know, and I'm like that in every facet of my life, you know. Obviously, there's a time and a place for certain things and certain jokes, you know. Being professional and
Sure.
personal, of course, but the essence of me has been consistent in my working relationships with my colleagues, in my personal relationships with my friends, in my romantic relationship with my girlfriend. I try to be the same person and consistent, you know, all the way through, you know,
I
throughout
love it. I
all the
love
way.
it. What
And
what's some of the lessons in terms of, I mean, you alluded to friendships change, people
mhm,
evolve. There's the saying, some people come for a season, some people stay for a
yep,
lifetime.
yep,
Can we talk about that piece maybe a
sure,
little bit and some of the lessons learned there?
sure, no,
Because I mean,
absolutely,
with TV fame, people suddenly, right, they want to connect with you.
absolutely.
They want everything for you. Suddenly, not only you're the local guy who can help them maybe with the law, but now you're the celebrity, and that shifts things, I would imagine.
It definitely does. You know, I'm not sitting here saying that, you know, people are just 100%, you know, malintentioned here, but, you know, definitely a lot more people started coming into my life. I definitely had to be more cautious of folks that I let in my life, you know, because of now my platform, this, you know, being on this show. You know, a lot of
Right.
people wanted access to us. Some folks wanted to try to be on the show through personal relationships and try to develop friendships. It definitely created a. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I just threw up this wall and I didn't talk to anybody. No, I still engage with everybody because that's just me personally. I'm a people person. I love being around people, but I was still very cautious of the things that I would say. You know, because again, I'm still learning people, learning if I can trust that person. So there was definitely a little bit more of a sense of awareness
Yep.
and a sense
Yep.
of caution. You
Love it.
know.
One of the things, I talk to people a lot about is role models and mentors.
Mhm,
What kind of, in this context, I mean, getting into a new business, getting into a new genre of entertainment, so to speak, have you had people help you there? Kind of, my generation, we grew up. If you didn't know something, it was like, oh, go away, go learn it yourself, go back to
mhm,
study. Now, community, resources, mentors are playing such a big role in
mhm.
any context. If that's in law, if that's in business, wherever it may be, and most certainly, I would imagine in the entertainment industry. Have you had the privilege of having some of those mentors actually really kind of walk you through and help you and guide you?
I am a firm believer in mentorship. Both, you know, me receiving mentorship and me, you know, paying it forward and giving mentorship to others. And I still believe in it to this day. I am not by any stretch. Look, I like to think that I am a very good attorney and I've had some great success, but there's always still a lot to learn. And I
Sure.
still reach out to colleagues, you know, I call them big brothers who are very successful attorneys who I'm still learning from constantly. In every facet, whether it's in law, whether it's been as a sports agent, whether it's been in real estate, all of it, because I'm constantly trying to improve myself all the time.
I love
And
it.
then vice versa. Like I turn around and give mentorship as
Mm,
well of the things that I've learned and try to pass it down. And sometimes, you know, I don't put a lot of that stuff, you know, on social media because I'm not trying to, you know, get the praise for it. You know, that's just something that I'm just passionate about. You
yep.
know,
Yep.
give you an example. This I actually really didn't even put this one on social media. I have a young mentee of mine who's at Morehouse College. He's from New Orleans, and he had an issue after his first semester freshman year, financially getting back to finish his freshman year. And I think it was 2 weeks before the new year. I raised $15,000 for him so he can go back to
Nice.
school next semester.
Nice. I love
Didn't
it.
put that on social media. Didn't really
Yeah.
care to. You know, he's a young man. We went to the same high school here in New Orleans. He went to my alma mater. Or he's going to my alma mater, Morehouse in Atlanta. Excuse me. And I was like, you know what? He's part of my community. I'm going to help him. He's a great kid. He's got a 4.0 GPA that he's been riding all the way through Morehouse, even now
Whew.
into his sophomore year. I said he deserves a chance. He deserves a
I
shot.
love
And
this.
I'm
I
gonna
love
rally
that.
all the troops to help him.
I love that.
And we keep in contact. Matter of fact, I'm going out there this weekend to go see him. He just crossed Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, so I'm super proud of him. And he's been super excited about that. So I'm gonna go out there this weekend to see him. So mentorship across the board is something that I'm very passionate about. You know, both for myself and for me giving back.
I love that. That's so cool. Guys, we're talking with Justin Reese right now. Justin was kind enough to join us from New Orleans. He is, as he says, my full-time day job is being a lawyer, and he's made some incredible wins for his firm there. He works for the King firm, appropriate for his name, right? Justin Reese on the Charm show, Southern Charm. It's a Bravo TV show. We're so honored having him here. He's a sports agent. He's calling in from New Orleans today. And we've talked so far a lot about Katrina, rebuilding, investing in the community, and being a role model and a mentor, which Justin spends a lot of time on. Justin, I want to talk a little bit more about Southern Charm, because I know that's kind of always the attraction when people hear these kinds of things. That's what people hang on to and connect with. What are some of the lessons you've learned besides, you were very kind and open about the vulnerability, some of the things that you need to put out there. But what are some of the things about the entertainment business, the TV shows, where everybody says, oh, I want to be on that? And the first thing you said, well, I don't know if you want to be really on there, because there's some things which are not so comfortable. What are some of the good things you've learned? And I'm not saying, so let me rephrase this. Learning about yourself is a great thing. It's probably the biggest gift you can give yourself. And actually, being vulnerable, being open, and working through your stuff. I think that's amazing. But then there's also the sides, which those are just pure fun. What are some of those things where you go, wow, this is happening for me. This is going on. This is amazing. What are some of those things?
I don't like to say that I'm famous. I think that I've become a lot more popular these days. I don't think that I'm necessarily a celebrity.
Okay.
I don't really look at myself like that. I'm just like, I'm just a little bit more popular around these days. And that part has been cool. The really cool part to me is when there have been situations in the show where there were like serious conversations had, and people were like, yo, what you said really hit home to me. I was dealing with the same thing with a family or a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And it really made sense. And it made me think about things, and it helped me a lot.
Yeah.
That right there is awesome. And then the other side of it too is like, I like to think that I'm an easygoing, I'm a fun person. I like to crack jokes. And the entertainment that I brought to people, like I was able to make people laugh, and not know them. Like normally I'm used to making like, people laugh in my immediate group, friends, family, things like that. But to know that I'm making strangers out there laugh at home and, create jokes amongst their families and friends, that was so cool. That
That's
part
awesome.
right there was like bringing joy to other people.
Yeah.
Was absolutely amazing.
That's fantastic. I love that. So let's talk about this other piece, the sports agent. You brought it up a couple of times. We talked about it earlier. Tell me about it. Is it a particular sport? Is it all across? Is it one particular sport you picked?
Just one sport, yes. So I'm certified with the NFL Players Association to represent NFL players. So I try to, recruit the guys that are coming out of college and solicit myself to be their representative, to negotiate their contracts with all of the 32 teams in the NFL.
I love it. I love it. Any people you can talk about that you're currently under contract with?
So I've kind of, because of the show, it hasn't allowed me to really get out there and recruit. So that the sports agent piece has kind of taken just a little bit of a backseat. But prior to the show, I had a couple of solid clients. For all the Washington football fans out there, I used to represent Rob Kelly. They called him Fat Rob, running back for the Washington football. At the time, it was the Redskins. Now it's the Washington football team. I've had a couple of other guys who have had workouts and tryouts who are on practice squad. Represented another guy by the name of James Crawford, great linebacker, played for the Green Bay Packers. He was then traded to the Miami Dolphins, and now we're working on getting him on another team. So I've had a couple guys.
I love it. I love it. So in terms of Southern Charm, when are you filming next?
We are still waiting to see, man. It's been one of those things where, we're like, what's happening, but I always tell folks, I say, look, when I get the call, I'll be ready. But until then, I keep my day job.
I love it. Smart man, right? There's always plan A, but you always got to maybe think about plan B as well. I love that. Justin, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they best get in touch with you? I know you're on Twitter at the Justin Reese.
Yes.
And then on Instagram, I think it's the same thing, right?
All of my social media handles are the exact same. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, the Justin Reese. I kept
That
it
is
simple,
fantastic.
easy, all across the board. I can also be reached. I'm at the King Firm in New Orleans. Like I said, I do a lot of personal injury law, hurricane recovery litigation is my specialty, wrongful deaths, you name it, anything in the personal injury world and hurricane recovery litigation, I do it all. Right here at the King Firm in Mid City on Canal Street. More than happy to help, and I handle the cases. So it's not just like you see me as like a spokesperson and I got somebody else, doing all the work. No, I do the work. So what you see is what you get.
I love it. I love it. If you've ever dealt with law firms, that means a lot because oftentimes you get the partner and then the partner pushes it off to an associate.
Correct.
And then when really stuff gets tough, it you don't have access to the guy or the girl you really want to have access to.
Exactly.
And I can certainly appreciate that. Justin, any final thoughts, any final inspirations, things that you're a mentor, you're somebody who's paying it forward. Anything that you think somebody listening can take some inspiration from and take something for the rest of the day, the week, the months, maybe for life.
I got a couple things, if you don't mind. The biggest thing is, we've all faced adversity, and I've always been taught, look, whenever you feel that there's a storm, in your life, the only way to get through the storm is like you got to physically go through it. Don't sit there and just ponder on it and just keep getting drenched. Just fight through it. Keep moving forward. Keep persevering and get through the storm, because once you're through, the sun does always come out. It always comes out. And so it's one of those things where you got to be patient, got to fight through it, got to focus through it. And the last thing that I want to say is I'm big on spreading love and kindness. That is like my biggest thing these days. And I always tell people, I kind of started this on my birthday this year. I said, I want people to do 2 random acts of kindness. The first thing I want you to do is somebody that you're close with, family member, friend, whatever the case may be, or maybe even somebody that you're having an issue with right now. Just send them a text, just say, hey man, I love you. Just thinking about you and I love you. And then the second thing is to a random stranger, walking down the street, to say, hey, you know what? I really like that shirt you're wearing. That's really cool. Or, I love your shoes. Man, you have such a great smile. I just wanted to let you know that. And just keep it moving. Just giving some random acts of love and kindness. That's been one of my biggest things recently.
I so love this. I mean, and what's the amazing thing is, I've talked about it in a different context. I think kindness is such a great thing to really exercise, right? We got to exercise that muscle more, but also realizing, as you said, giving somebody a compliment, making them feel good. Actually, it's like a boomerang. It comes right back at you. It makes you feel better.
It does.
It's like this paying it forward. The oxytocin kicks right in. There's a neuroscientific logic behind it, which I absolutely love. So I'm going to give you a compliment, brother. You've been amazing in terms of so kind. And I'm not saying this just because you prompted it, but for how easy you were to connect with. And that speaks for probably who you are. We're getting to know each other. We're new friends.
Yeah.
But that was amazing. And you just have been such a pleasure. There was no pretense, nothing. And I'm so immensely grateful for it. And I want to say thank you for that.
Man, it's been my pleasure. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come and just share my story and the things that I'm passionate about. And just want to get the information and the love out there, man.
Yeah, let's do it. Guys, we've had the honor, the pleasure, the fun, and the absolute privilege to have with us this guy here, Justin Reese. He's part of the Bravo TV show Southern Charm, and we're all looking forward to hopefully getting more recording done there soon, that you guys get back on cast very soon. He's a lawyer in New Orleans. You can find him at Justin Reese. All his social media handles, if that's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, is the Justin Reese. It's THE, the Justin, JUSTIN, and Reese like Reese's Buttercup, right? Yeah, you've probably never heard that one before. He's based in New Orleans. He's an immensely kind person for us to be with us here today. Thanks again. And for us right here, as the song says, out of time. There's only one thing left. And that is Justin and Stefan out.